we're going to start talking a little bit more about my stuff. Now, some of this, I don't think it would trigger anybody, but it might be information that you don't want to hear about, especially if you're my family. You might not want to hear about this. There's some information that is fine. There's some information you might not want to hear. I have been this person, I'm 41, and I have chosen not to have children for multiple reasons that I really don't feel like getting too much into. I feel like my life is complete without them, and I have experienced what it's like to raise a child. And that was when I was quite a bit younger and had a lot of energy. And knowing what it would take to raise a kid now, I have no interest in that. And I have no interest in doing that, period. I have no interest in doing that alone. And at the age that I am at, the women in my family start menopause at 40, at 41. And if you're not familiar with what that is, because people don't talk about it enough, it is when we stop getting our periods, when we stop being able to have children. But the way that it happens in my family, it takes years and years and years and years and years for it to happen, to finish. So although I am experiencing some of the early symptoms, like I've been having issues with my hair, with my skin, with my focus, I've been having the night sweat stuff. So I'm starting to have symptoms of it. It's called perimenopause, which my gynecologist doesn't talk about at all. Thank you very much. But that's a whole nother story for another day. The point is, if I was to get pregnant now, it would be dangerous. It would be dangerous for me to carry a child at this age that I've never had a kid. I'm not the picture of health, physically speaking. Not that I'm down on myself, but that's a reality when you're carrying a child. So the pregnancy would be dangerous. The birth would be dangerous. And the child would very likely have some kind of complication or disability. And those of you that know me at all, I taught for a very long time children with disabilities. And I can't even imagine. I send shout out and props to people that are raising kids like that. I'm not saying that they shouldn't. I don't think I have that in me. And knowing what it would take to raise a typical child, and then even then some to raise a child with some kind of other ability, meaning disability, that's not for me, period. Now, when I was younger, did I consider it? Not one. After I was 21, after I got out of the abusive relationship that I was in, and I will tell a more specific story about that later on. I haven't decided if I'm going to share it publicly or in my membership section. But after I got out of that, I didn't want children. I didn't want, when I was young, I did, but that relationship broke me. And I never changed my mind after that. I never went back to, yeah, someday, and part of it may have something to do with the partners that I've chosen, because I was single for a very, very long time after that. We're talking 9 years. I was single, not in a relationship. And when I did get into a relationship, it was a situation that would not have been good to have a child with that person at the time. No, they weren't married. They were just a lot younger than me. And if we had stayed together long term, I probably would have had a kid with him. He actually has a kid now. And he's an amazing father, and he always wanted to have kids. I probably would have if we had stayed together long term, but that ship sailed 10 years ago, and the person that I saw after him was never going to be a real partner, even though they pretended to be. narcissistic. So that wasn't going to work. And I had always promised myself I was never going to have a child with somebody that wasn't an equal partner. And I was never going to have a child alone if I even considered having one. With all that backstory, I'm not having children. And I am completely sure and confident and have been this way for 20 years now. Would I have eventually tried to have a kid if I was with a partner who was there and who was a good partner and who really wanted one? I probably would have at some point, but not anymore. I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for my life. I don't want that for my body. And nobody can tell me otherwise. Now, with all that said, the health complications I have had were related to OBGYN stuff. I had an IUD, a copper Paragard IUD that I chose to use for birth control 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that. Around 2013, 2014, I had it put in because I had had a lot of issues with hormonal birth control, and I was done. I didn't want to do that anymore. And there was an option for non-hormonal birth control. I was all for it. And it lasted 10 years. Yes, please sign me up. And yeah, there was some side effects to that, but it was, in my opinion, even now, it was worth it at the time. Now, fast forward to now, and this is the part my family probably shouldn't listen to if you don't want to know this about me. Several years ago, I had an issue with assault. And I don't know if I'll tell that story or not at some point. But so this was in October 2020. And after that, I started to notice that sometimes I was having pain while being physically involved with somebody. And it was a very specific type of pain. It was in a very specific spot. It was a very specific way. And it depended on it depended on circumstance. We'll just say that without getting into too deep detail. And I complained to my doctor about it. I complained to my doctor a lot because it was very painful. If I say it's painful, it is bad because I have had biopsies done with no numbing, and the IUD just put in me with no numbing, and like I've had a lot done to my body that I've tolerated and been able to tolerate. So if I'm saying it's painful, it's really painful. And I said something to her shortly after it happened, and then I kind of left it alone for a little bit because there was a person I was seeing that didn't really affect it. And then it started up again when I changed partners, and it never got better. And I complained to her, and several years in a row I complained to her, and never once did she think it's my IUD. And I mentioned it to her, and she's like, no, you're just sensitive. And I was like, I've never been sensitive. How is it suddenly I'm sensitive? So I saw her in the late summer, early fall this year. And right before I went to see her, I had decided on permanent birth control, that I wanted to look into it, that I was serious about it, that I was interested in it, because I was coming up on the window of I needed to make a decision because my IUD needed to be removed. It was expiring. It needed to be either replaced with another IUD, or I needed to make a choice for another type of birth control. And because I could still get pregnant if I don't use anything, even though I've started some symptoms of menopause. So I talked to her about sterilization. I was just thinking I was going to get my tubes tied. And she was like, let's remove them. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, apparently they don't really tie them anymore. They do a removal instead. And the removal is because it limits your chance for ovarian cancer. And it's a lot better for you as the person who goes through it. So when I mentioned it to her, she was super excited. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, oh, okay. And she was like, I'll have my surgical person call you. All right. In the meantime, she gives me a paper to get a mammogram done, and she gives me a paper to get an ultrasound done for my IUD. Took me 6 months to get in to have my mammogram done. I was on a waiting list for 6 months. That's how disgusting this state is. Fine. Took me 3 months to get in to see somebody for an ultrasound. Also disgusting, because the ultrasound was to make sure my IUD was still in place, and that wasn't what was causing the pain, which she should have done 2 years ago. Whatever. I get in there. It was right before Christmas. I have it done, the ultrasound, I mean. The day after, on my patient portal, it tells me she hadn't even sent me any notes yet. I saw the write-up, and the IUD is not in the proper placement. And the last time I had it checked, had it scanned, was in 2017 or 2018, because I was having pain then. But it wasn't because of the IUD. There was something else going on. But they weren't sure what the cause was. So they took precautions and checked that out as well. So it was confirmed in the right place in 2018. So sometime in between 2018 and probably October 2020, or maybe a little bit after that, something happened. And I'm guessing it was the assault. I'm thinking, because there was no pain leading up to that. And I think supposedly that can't move your IUD. So it's been stable since 2014. What would cause that to move? Anyway, it was out of place. It wasn't in the right place, and I could have gotten pregnant. I don't know how long it's been out of place, but I definitely could have gotten pregnant. And I'm thinking she's going to call me and be like, you were right. Let's set up an appointment, because the plan was to have the IUD taken out when I was in for surgery. But I can't even get in for a surgery. I still didn't have a surgery scheduled. I was still playing phone tag with these people, which I guess is just part of the process. But like, the woman that I was dealing with was not very professional, helpful, all the things. And so my doctor, a few days before Christmas, sends me a little message saying, IUD is out of place. Use alternate birth control. We'll take it out when you have surgery. A surgery that's still not scheduled. And I'm having pain, which is why I complained about it in the first place. No form of concern about my pain, no acknowledgement that this is what's been going on for years. And I went back and looked into my records, and she did document it in 2020 that I was complaining about pain, and in 2022. Still no urgency, no big concern. Like, yeah, just deal with it and we'll take it out when you have your surgery someday. So I had to push back a lot, and I had to call a lot of different people. I had to complain a lot. Like, I was one step away from walking into that office and causing a scene, demanding to have it removed, because now I have this foreign body that is not in the right place that could penetrate like my uterus, puncture my uterus, because there's no known cause of what made it like this. And I'm having pain. I'm not comfortable, and my doctor doesn't care. So I ended up messaging her. God forbid she calls me. Ended up messaging her and expressing a concern about not being able to get in for surgery. Scheduling kept pushing me back. They were talking March, which is when my date officially is. And I didn't want to wait that long. I did not want to wait until almost April to get this thing out of me. This foreign body that isn't where it's supposed to be, that has been likely causing pain. So I scheduled on the portal. I kind of went backwards, because all the doctor said was, it could be what's causing your discomfort. Some of your discomfort. That's all she said. Thanks for that. And the more research I've done, the more I've realized a lot of women have had trouble with their OBGYNs making them feel like they're being big babies, because that's what was going on with me back when I was complaining about the pain, that they don't really offer the kind of pain management that they would a man that's going through the similar procedure. And I really was not the person to believe that kind of stuff, but the more stories I've been hearing, the more I'm like, oh my God, what is wrong with women's health? It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing, and it's a huge system that obviously isn't going to change just because I'm posting a vlog, obviously. Now, I end up finally getting my surgery scheduled, and they give me zero information. I know nothing about prep, about aftercare, about recovery. Now, I've had a surgery done before on my upper left shoulder blade, but that's extremely different than abdominal surgery. And there were certain things I needed to be aware of, including not lifting anything more than 10 pounds. Tonks is 21 pounds. Tonks is not going to let anybody else pick her up. Tonks is sick, and Tonks has a lot of appointments going on. So I needed to know how much can I not lift after surgery? How incapacitated am I actually? I know all this now. You guys don't have to tell me your stories because I already know. But at the time, I didn't know anything. The lady just gave me a date. She didn't even tell me the time. She didn't, nothing. It wasn't until I went in to get my IUD out a few weeks later that I pummeled my doctor with questions, because I felt so uninformed, and I hated that because I couldn't plan. I couldn't plan to be out of work. I didn't know how long I'd be down. So I have been filming videos for the YouTube channel for the entire end of March and April in case of I needing a longer recovery. I have filmed over 45 videos in a few weeks. maybe 6 weeks. Maybe. And in the middle of all of that, I was sick in January. I had migraine issues because of the solar storms. And then Tonks got sick. So I was planning on working my ass off and having everything ready for the channel to go, so you wouldn't even miss any content. It was going to be up and going, and then I could just recover and not worry about that part of my work, and I'd be back before you guys even knew it. But I don't know if that's going to be the case. I've filmed pretty far. I just finished filming the first week of April astrology, and I have the rest of April that I have to do, and I have a lot of Wednesdays already prepped. I have several Fridays already done, because I can sit on my laptop when I'm healing and edit. I don't have to be as long as it's filmed, I can edit it on my laptop when I'm resting. So that's my story. I am scheduled for surgery on March 20th. I have been watching a lot of people share their stories, and from what I gather, the worst pain is the fact that they pump you full of gas to blow up your stomach area, so that when they cut the stuff out, they can see, because they put a camera in and then they cut the stuff out. And from what I gather, the most that I've heard people talk about for pain is the gas. Having your entire upper cavity full of gas that they've pumped into you. And a lot of people talk about it moving up into their chest and into their shoulders and into their back. And I'm so worried about that. I can handle abdominal discomfort. I've had the cramps I had during the IUD felt like somebody was stabbing me for 4 days in a row. And actually, the first period I had after my IUD, I didn't even realize I had my period, because it was that little of pain. But with the IUD, because it wasn't hormonal, it was I would be taking fistfuls of Advil every day, opposite Tylenol, not fistfuls of Tylenol. Tylenol is not safe to take like that. And I'd have heating pads on. And I would take CBD or THC, something to help with the cramping. And I still sometimes was in extreme discomfort. It was still that bad. It was that bad. And I handle pain. Like, it's fine. It's whatever. It's not a big deal. And I sound cocky about it, but my body's been through a lot, especially in that area, that I can handle it. So I wasn't too worried about cramping as far as that part was concerned from the incisions and stuff. It's more like this gas stuff that I'm hearing, that it travels up and it can get trapped in your body, and you can't lay flat when you're sleeping because then it doesn't have anywhere to go. And that's how I sleep. And I'm a very restless sleeper, and people are saying you have to sit up to sleep. And I don't know how the hell I'm going to do that because my neck is not good. Like, I have a bad neck, so it hurts anytime like I lean this way or this way. And how am I going to sit sleeping up? I'm not going to be able to hold, my head's either going to tilt forward, tilt back, side, or side. I was making a joke today. I was like, I need one of those orange pillows that I had on Tonks to keep my head up when I'm recovering from surgery. So yeah, that's my story. I really hope that I'll have minimal downtime. When I had my shoulder done, I had a thing, it was the size of a softball, actually, removed from under the skin. So they weren't like cutting through, they were cutting a little bit of muscle out, but they weren't really. And they weren't touching any organs. So I think I recovered from that in a couple of days. I just had to be careful for a few days of how I moved, but like, I wasn't the first day was really bad. After that, I was fine. And I won't take narcotics. I won't take opioids. I will not do it because addiction runs so strongly in my family, number one. And number two, the only opioid I've ever taken in my entire life was when I had my wisdom teeth taken out when I was 19, and it made me super sick. I wanted to give you guys an update of what's going on with me. So I will not be taking readings from March 19th on. I don't know. I have a follow-up appointment with my doctor the second week of April, I believe. I am not sure when I will be up and running. It could be the last week of March. It could be the first week of April. It could be the third week of April. I don't know. I really hope it's a lot sooner than that because I live alone and I don't like having people in my house. I'm very, very, very introverted. And so as far as aftercare, they do recommend you have somebody stay with you the first night. I'm trying not to do that. When I had my shoulder done, they said the same thing, and I didn't have anybody stay with me. I'm trying not to do that. We'll see how I am when my surgery is at 2. They said I should be out by 6. So I'll know by like 7 or 8 if I need somebody to stay with me. Because it'll all depend. I've never had this level of anesthesia, but I've never had any major issues with anesthesia before. So I don't think I'm going to need somebody. I also am very stubborn and I don't want to need anybody. Normally I would have Kimmy stay with me, and that would be simple because she practically lives here. However, if you guys know Kimmy, I've talked about her a bunch on my channel. She's my little cousin. I can't because she is in nursing school, and it just isn't. She's in nursing school that's like a 2-hour drive from here, and she'd have to be there at 6 a.m. and that's not possible. It's just not going to happen. I do have other people. I have a godmother who has offered. I have my aunt and uncle from the cats who have offered. My mom has offered. I have other people. I'm so introverted that I would rather be alone than have somebody stay here, because having somebody here is going to be more of a stressor to me than a help. Unless if I really, really, really need it. It's going to be more of a stressor to me than a help because they don't know their way around my house. They don't know how I like things. Tonks doesn't like anybody. So it's like, it's just, it would be more of a pain, honestly, I think. So I am going to be trying to go on my own, and we'll see what happens. And my plan is, because I had asked the doctor, I was like, what's the worst case scenario if I'm alone? What could happen? She's like, well, you might have trouble getting up. Okay, I'll go slow. She goes, you might, you could get dizzy at some point. And I was like, all right, you know what? If that's the worst that could happen, I will just wear, so I have lots of sweatpants or even like a dress, because I heard that you're not really supposed to have much around your stomach right afterwards, like any clothes pushing on your stomach. So I have a few summer dresses that have pockets in them that I'll hang out in if that's what I got to wear. But I will keep my phone in my pocket. And if something happens, I can call 911. That's what 911's for. Or I can call family. Like, that's my plan. Wish me luck on that one. But I'm going to be out for a while as far as readings are concerned. And I am probably going to be working on some protection stuff and some healing stuff for myself ahead of time, so that my recovery is fast, because I just want to get it over with. I want it over with. I didn't realize how long the recovery could potentially take. So I kind of wish I could push it back a little bit, because I'm not fully ready as far as financially taking that time out. But I booked this in March. In December. March 20th was the soonest thing they had from December. So if I tried to push it out in March, I might not get a surgery date until November. And I just want it done. I just want it done. I want it over with, and I want to get it behind me. And they had to like counsel me a lot. Like, are you sure this isn't reversible? What if you change your mind? Like all those things. And I just was like, yeah, I'm sure. Like, I don't make big decisions like this at the drop of a hat. I'm not that person. I'm never going to turn around and be like, yeah, I want to have a kid now. And if for some weird reason I suddenly feel that way, which I haven't felt that way in 20 something years, why would I feel that way all of a sudden now? Now that I've taken this one thing out of my body that now I can't do it? I don't think so. I know myself pretty well. However, if for some reason I do, I am also prepared for that. There's thousands upon thousands, if not millions, of children out there that need a good home. So if for some reason I suddenly have this maternal desire that I want a child so badly that I can't function without it, I will adopt or foster. That's what I will do. But I don't think that that's going to be a thing. Honestly, Kimmy stayed over with her daughter Luna, who is now 6. She's 6. She's a bigger girl. She's like, she's not a little kid anymore. And they were here overnight. And just in the few hours that they were here in the evening before we went to bed, I was exhausted. It was the biggest confirmation that I am doing the right thing. The biggest sign that, yep, I'm good. I don't want to have one of those. Like, there was nothing wrong with her. I want to be clear. She's a sweetheart, and I love this kid. But energy-wise, the amount of energy that I needed to expend just to hang out with this kid, I'm good. I'm good. I don't, no, good. Even sometimes the thought of getting a kitten right now is a lot, because I'd have to train it, and I don't have the energy for that right now. So yeah, that's my story. I might do an update for you guys post-surgery. I'm not even sure. This is probably the most I've ever shared about my physical stuff before on here. But I just kind of, when I saw that a lot of people were sharing their experiences, I kind of felt like, why not? Like, this should be talked about more. And a lot of people don't talk about it. A lot of people, I know, actually my aunt, I don't think she'd care if I shared it. My aunt the aunt with the kitties that I go house sit with, Moss and Ivy and Frankie and Nova, and I talk about it, and they've been in a bunch of videos. She never wanted children. Ever. she knew she never wanted children. And when I told her I was going to get my tubes done, because I was so nervous. Also, that's another thing. I was so nervous about telling my mom. I was so nervous about telling my mom because my relationship with my mother about me having children has been very challenging. Not now, but it was. First it was, oh God, I don't want her to have kids too young. I don't want her, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then it turned into, when are you going to have a kid? When are you going to have a kid? When are you going to have a kid? I want a kid. When are you going to have a grandkid? When are you going to have a grandkid? And that became a thing. And it was a thing for a long time. And we got into a lot of arguments over it because I'm very strong, stubborn-headed. And when I make a decision for myself, I make a decision for myself. And if you don't accept that, you're not respecting me. You're being disrespectful, and you don't care that you're being disrespectful. So, I mean, this was years ago. Like, this was a good, like, 10 years ago, maybe even like 15 years ago, that we really got at it a lot about that. We haven't fought about that in a very, very long time, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if she was going to give me a hard time about it. I really didn't know. And so I told my aunt, who has the cats, first, and she was like, oh, I did that when I was 23, which I was shocked because she's in her 60s now. So to do that 40 years ago, to find a doctor that actually doesn't give you shit over that 40 years ago in your 20s, that's pretty impressive. But she did. She said she had it done and she encouraged me to do it. She's like, I'm surprised you haven't done it sooner. I was like, I honestly didn't even think of it. My mom wanted me to get a full hysterectomy. My mom was all for it and wanted me to get the full thing done because there is cancer that runs in my family of those parts, of uterine, of ovarian, of fallopian, like all that. And I said, no, I don't want to have that done right now because I am not in menopause yet. And I really don't want to go through menopause. I don't know why. It's like the one thing of our lives that I'm just like, I don't want to get old. I think that's it. I think I just don't want to get old. And it is getting really dark now. So I think it's time to go. But it's just, yeah. So I'm not ready for menopause. I'm 40 and I'm so tired already. And the ADHD could be because of the perimenopause stuff. I actually have been considering looking into hormone replacement therapy, but I'm still looking into the research around that because breast cancer runs in my family. And I've heard that can increase, taking estrogen to help with your hormones can increase your risk of breast cancer. So I'm still looking into that. I have not made any kind of decision around that yet. But that's my story, guys. And I mean, feel free to ask questions. I did put it out there. No judgment. Judgment is a no. I'm not going to acknowledge judgment. I'm not going to answer judgment unless if you want to start a fight, and then I might fight with you. Maybe. It depends on the mood that I'm in, because I'm like in this place that anything is going to push me over the edge right now. So no judgment. But if you have questions, if you're curious about any of it, why I came to that, how I came to the decision, I think I pretty much shared it, but yeah, feel free to comment down below. And yeah, this was fun. This was different. Let me know if you want to see the recovery, not see, but like have an update on the recovery when it does happen. And I'd love to hear your stories if you've actually been through any of it. All right. Bye.